The scent of pine and wild roses clung to the night air, mingling with the acrid smoke from the massive bonfire that cast long, dancing shadows across the forest clearing. Music thrummed through the ground beneath my bare feet, a primal rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the pack as they celebrated the summer solstice. Laughter and howls erupted from the crowd, their joy a tangible force that seemed to push against me, emphasizing the invisible wall that had always separated me from them. I stood at the edges of the celebration, my pale blonde hair falling in waves down my back, catching golden highlights from the flames. My fingers clutched the worn silver pendant my grandmother had pressed into my palm before she died. A small wolf with sapphire eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. "Remember who you are," she had whispered, "even when others forget. Tonight, like every night since I'd come to the Silver Moon Pack, I felt forgotten." "Smile, Ilara," Mina said, nudging me with her elbow. As one of the few pack members who bothered speaking to me, she seemed to consider herself responsible for my social integration. "It's a feast. You're supposed to look happy." I forced my lips upward, but the smile felt brittle on my face. "I am happy," I lied, watching as the pack members danced and celebrated around their alpha king, Ronan Gray, and his Luna, Vivian. They were a striking couple, he all dark power and commanding presence, she all graceful beauty with her fiery red hair swirling as he spun her across the clearing. "You know you could join in," Mina suggested, though we both knew it wasn't true. As a human living among werewolves, I was tolerated only because I had nowhere else to go after my grandmother died. The pack had taken me in out of respect for her healing abilities, which I had inherited in small measure, but tolerance wasn't acceptance. "I'm fine here," I said, my eyes drifting toward the pack house where 3 small children slept. Ronan and Vivian's triplets, 2 boys and a girl, barely 3 years old, had been put to bed hours ago. I could just make out the warm glow from their window, where a nightlight kept the shadows at bay. A sudden shift in the atmosphere drew my attention back to the celebration. Ronan had stopped dancing, his head tilted as though listening to something only he could hear. His eyes, reflecting the firelight, narrowed dangerously as he scanned the trees surrounding the clearing. Without warning, he barked an order, and several of his warriors melted into the darkness. "Border Patrol found something," Mina whispered, her body tensing beside me. "Must be serious for them to interrupt the feast." A cold shiver traced my spine as Vivienne continued dancing, seemingly oblivious to her mate's sudden alertness. Or perhaps deliberately drawing attention to herself. Either way, my eyes kept returning to the pack house, to that small window with its comforting light. Then I saw it. A shadow, moving too quickly to be natural, slipping toward the children's wing of the pack house. No one else seemed to notice. The pack warriors had followed their alpha toward the eastern border. Vivian danced more frantically now, her laughter high and forced as she pulled more pack members into her circle. A distraction, I realized with sudden clarity. But from what? Without thinking, I backed away from the firelight, dropping my half-eaten plate of food behind a log. No one watched as I slipped into the darkness, my heart hammering against my ribs. The silver pendant burned against my skin as I ran, my grandmother's words echoing in my mind. "True strength isn't in claws or fangs, Ilara. It's in doing what's right when everyone else looks away." The pack house loomed before me, its stone walls silver in the moonlight. I moved silently along the perimeter, my human senses straining to detect any disturbance. Another shadow flickered at the edge of my vision, taller than a man, moving with inhuman speed toward the children's bedroom window. I pressed myself against the wall, terror freezing the breath in my lungs. What could I do against a werewolf? Or worse, whatever creature moved with such unnatural quickness. I had no claws, no supernatural strength, just my wits, and a desperate need to protect 3 innocent children who had always smiled at me when the rest of the pack looked through me. The night seemed to hold its breath as I crept toward the children's wing, staying close to the shadows. The window was open, just a crack, but enough for me to see fingers like twisted branches prying it wider. Not werewolf claws at all, but something else. Something ancient and wrong that smelled of grave dirt and rotting leaves. My pendant grew hotter, and a strange certainty flooded me. Whatever was trying to enter wasn't from any pack I knew. It wasn't natural at all. I reached into my pocket and closed my fingers around the small pouch of herbs I always carried, protection herbs my grandmother had taught me to blend. Wolfsbane, rowan berries, and salt, bound with a thread of silver. Against those who hunt in darkness, she'd said, never explaining further. Now, with trembling fingers, I withdrew the pouch and a small silver blade no longer than my index finger. I sliced my palm, letting 3 drops of blood fall onto the herbs, and whispered the words my grandmother had made me memorize. Blood of my blood, light in darkness, shield against shadow. The pouch grew warm, and a soft blue light emanated from between my fingers. Without hesitation, I threw it through the narrow opening of the window. A high, thin scream, like winter wind through dead branches, pierced the night. The shadow creature recoiled from the window, its form twisting in agony as the blue light spread like water, forming a barrier around the children's room. I pressed myself flat against the wall as the thing dropped to the ground, its body contorting unnaturally. Up close I could see it was vaguely humanoid but wrong in every way. Limbs too long, skin like bark, eyes like empty holes in a withered face. It turned those hollow eyes toward me, and I felt my soul grow cold. Human, it hissed, the word formed by a mouth that seemed to crack open in its face. Little light carrier, you should not interfere in matters beyond your understanding. My body trembled, but I forced myself to stand straight, the silver pendant burning against my skin giving me courage. I understand enough, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You won't touch those children. The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The Alpha King's precious pups. Do you think he will thank you, human? Do you think he even sees you? The truth in those words stung, but I pushed the pain aside. I don't do it for thanks. Then why? It asked, tilting its head at an impossible angle. Because they're innocent, I answered. And because I can. The creature moved toward me, its body flowing like smoke. Then you will die in their place. A fair exchange. I backed away, knowing I couldn't outrun it, couldn't fight it. The protection spell would hold for the children, but I had nothing left to shield myself. I gripped my grandmother's pendant, praying for a miracle. The night air suddenly grew heavy, charged with power that made my hair stand on end. A low, rumbling growl vibrated through the darkness, primordial and terrifying in its rage. The Alpha King stepped from the shadows, but not as the man I'd glimpsed from afar. This was his wolf, massive, black as midnight, with eyes like burning gold. Behind him, more wolves emerged, their teeth bared in silent snarls. The creature froze, then began to retreat, its form becoming less substantial. You dare! Ronan growled, his voice somehow understandable even in wolf form, layered with power that made my knees weak. You dare enter my territory, threaten my children? The bargain was made, the creature hissed. A life for a life, if not the pups. Then another must pay the price. Ronan's massive wolf stalked forward. There was no bargain, only a lie told by one who will pay with her own blood. My mind reeled. Someone had made a deal? Someone had offered the Alpha's children as payment? The realization struck me like a physical blow. Vivian. The Luna. The distraction at the feast suddenly made terrible sense. The creature seemed to shrink before Ronan's advance, but its hollow eyes fixed on me one last time. Ask your Luna what price she was willing to pay for immortal beauty, it said. Ask what blood she promised. With a sound like tearing silk, it dissolved into the shadows, leaving only the scent of decay behind. I stood frozen, blood still dripping from my palm, as Ronan shifted back to human form. Naked and magnificent in the moonlight, he radiated such power and fury that I couldn't look directly at him. One of his warriors hurried forward with a robe, which he donned without taking his eyes off me. What did you do? He demanded, closing the distance between us in 3 long strides. My voice failed me as he loomed over me, his golden eyes seeming to see through to my soul. Protection spell. For the children. Show me. With shaking hands, I led him to the window. The blue light still shimmered around the room, and through the glass, we could see the 3 children sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger that had stalked them. Ronan pressed his palm against the barrier, and I felt a jolt of energy pass between my body and his, as though the spell recognized him. The blue light pulsed once, then allowed his hand to pass through. "Blood magic," he said, turning those golden eyes back to me. "Old magic. Human magic." I nodded, unable to form words under his scrutiny. "You risked your life. For my children." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Anyone would have. "No." His voice was like gravel, deep and rough with emotion I couldn't identify. "Anyone would not have. My own Luna." He broke off, pain flashing across his face before the mask of alpha authority returned. He reached out suddenly, gripping my injured hand and turning it palm up to examine the cut I'd made. The touch of his skin against mine sent a shock of electricity up my arm, making me gasp. Ronan froze, his eyes widening as they locked with mine. Something passed between us, something ancient and undeniable that made the world around us fade to insignificance. My heart thundered in my chest as his thumb brushed across my palm, smearing my blood against his skin. "Impossible," he whispered. But there was wonder in his voice, not denial. Before I could ask what he meant, shouts erupted from the direction of the feast. Warriors were returning, dragging someone between them. Even from a distance, I recognized the flash of red hair. Vivian. Ronan's expression hardened, his jaw clenching as he released my hand. "Bring her to the council hall," he ordered the warriors. To me, he said, "Stay with my children. Keep your protection spell active. What's happening?" I dared to ask. His eyes met mine again, and in them I saw conflict, confusion, and something else. Something that made my breath catch. "Justice," he said simply. Then, lower, meant only for me. "We will speak again, little one. There is much to discuss." As he turned to follow his warriors, I caught his final words, so quiet I almost missed them. "My true mate." I stood there, shocked into stillness, as the implications of those 3 words crashed over me like a tidal wave. True mate. The most sacred bond among werewolves. Impossible between alpha and human. Impossible. Until tonight. The silver pendant cooled against my skin as I made my way to the children's room, my mind reeling with questions I was afraid to answer. Whatever came next, I knew with bone-deep certainty that my life would never be the same. I spent the night in a rocking chair beside the children's beds, my protection spell shimmering faintly around us like a cocoon of starlight. The triplets slept peacefully, unaware of how close they had come to whatever fate Vivian had bargained for them. Occasionally, one would stir, small hands clutching at dreams, and I would hum the lullaby my grandmother taught me until they settled again. Dawn broke with a hushed reverence, painting the room in gentle gold and rose. I hadn't slept, my mind too full of questions and fears, and those 3 words Ronan had whispered. My true mate. Words that couldn't possibly be meant for me. A human with no place in the hierarchy of wolf society, yet the memory of his touch lingered on my skin. The electric connection between us undeniable. A soft knock at the door startled me from my thoughts. I tensed, unsure what awaited on the other side, but it was only Mina, her usually cheerful face drawn with exhaustion. "You're alive," she said, relief evident in her voice as she slipped inside. "When no one could find you after everything, I feared the worst." "I've been here," I said, gesturing to the still sleeping children, keeping watch. Mina's eyes widened as she noticed the faint blue glow surrounding the room. "Is that a protection spell?" I explained, suddenly self-conscious. Magic, especially human magic, was viewed with suspicion by most werewolves. "It will fade once I leave." Instead of the disgust I expected, Mina looked impressed. "So the rumors are true. You saved them." "What rumors?" She settled on the floor beside my chair, her voice dropping to a whisper, though we both knew werewolf children had supernatural hearing even in sleep. "The whole pack's talking about it. How you spotted the shadow creature when no one else did. How you faced it alone to protect the alpha's pups." Heat crept into my cheeks. I just happened to be looking in the right direction. While everyone else was distracted by the Luna's dance, Mina's expression darkened. Former Luna, I should say. A chill ran through me. "What happened after I left?" Mina glanced at the sleeping children. then back to me. Vivian was caught trying to flee. When the Alpha confronted her with what you'd seen, she confessed. She'd made a deal with a Shadow Walker, one of the ancient fae that live in the deep forests beyond our borders. What kind of deal? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Youth, beauty, power. Mina spat the words as if they tasted foul. Shadow Walkers can grant such things, but their price is always blood. Usually their client's own blood, paid in installments over years. But Vivian, she trailed off, looking at the sleeping triplets. She offered her children instead. I finished, sickness churning in my stomach. Mina nodded grimly. Not just any blood, alpha blood, royal blood. The Shadow Walker would have drained them slowly, taking years of their lives to fuel Vivian's vanity. I clutched my pendant, remembering the hollow-eyed creature at the window. What will happen to her? She's been banished, Mina said, stripped of her Luna status and pack bonds. The Alpha. I've never seen him like that. His rage was terrifying, but even more frightening was his control. He didn't kill her, though every instinct must have demanded it. The triplets began to stir, tiny eyes blinking open in the morning light. The little girl, Ardia, saw me first, her face lighting up with a smile that squeezed my heart. Lara, she exclaimed, using the shortened version of my name that her small mouth found easier to pronounce. Her brothers, Finn and Leo, woke at her voice, both scrambling to sit up. You stayed all night? Leo asked, his golden eyes, so like his father's, wide with wonder. I nodded, feeling a warmth spread through my chest at their obvious delight in finding me there. Unlike the adults of the pack, the children had never treated me as an outsider. To them, I was simply a Lara, who told the best stories and always had pockets full of honey candies. Where's Mother? Finn asked, looking around the room with a small frown. The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. How did one explain to 3-year-olds that their mother had tried to sacrifice them for her own gain? I was saved from answering by another knock, this one firmer, more commanding. The door opened before either Mina or I could respond, revealing Ronan himself. He filled the doorframe, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a simple black t-shirt and jeans that did nothing to diminish his regal bearing. The triplets squealed in delight, launching themselves at their father with supernatural speed. He caught them easily, a genuine smile softening his severe features as he gathered them close. My brave warriors, he rumbled, his deep voice gentle as he kissed each tousled head. And my fierce princess. Mina rose quickly, bowing her head in respect. Alpha. Ronan nodded to her, then fixed his golden gaze on me. The intensity in his eyes made my heart stumble. Mina, take the children for breakfast. I need to speak with Alara. Of course, Alpha, she said, beckoning to the triplets. Come on, little ones. I heard Cook made cinnamon pancakes this morning. The children hesitated, looking between their father and me with curious expressions. Go on, Ronan encouraged them. I just need to thank Alara properly for watching over you last night. That seemed to satisfy them, and they followed Mina with only a few backward glances. As the door closed behind them, the room fell into a silence so complete, I could hear my own heartbeat, rapid and irregular under Ronan's steady gaze. He moved further into the room, and I rose from the rocking chair, suddenly aware of how rumpled I must look after a sleepless night. Your spell is still active, he noted, gesturing to the faint blue shimmer that still clung to the walls. It will fade soon, I said, unsure what else to say in the face of his overwhelming presence. In the clear light of morning, he seemed even more imposing than he had in the moonlight, and more troubled. You saved my children, he said, each word weighted with gravity. No one else noticed the Shadow Walker. No one else acted. I shook my head, uncomfortable with his intensity. I was just in the right place. No. He cut me off, taking another step closer. Don't diminish what you did. You saw what others missed. You acted when others were blind. You put yourself between my children and a creature that would have destroyed them. I swallowed hard, acutely aware of his proximity. They're innocent. I couldn't just watch. Most would have run for help. You confronted it alone. His voice softened slightly. That was brave. And foolish. A flicker of defiance sparked in me. It worked, didn't it? To my surprise, he laughed, A short, rough sound like he wasn't accustomed to making it. Yes, little one, it worked. This time. Little one. The same endearment he'd used last night, before those other, more impossible words, my true mate. As if reading my thoughts, Ronan's expression grew serious again. There's something else we need to discuss. My mouth went dry. Last night, what you said. I meant it, he said simply, though there was nothing simple about the declaration. When I touched your blood, when our eyes met, you felt it too. Don't deny it. I couldn't deny it. The connection had been instant and overwhelming, like finding a piece of myself I hadn't known was missing. But I'm human, I whispered. Alphas mate with werewolves, with Lunas who can stand beside them as equals. A shadow crossed his face at the mention of Lunas. Vivienne was a werewolf. She was strong, beautiful, politically connected, everything a traditional Luna should be, and she would have sacrificed our children for her own vanity. He moved closer still, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. Strength isn't measured in claws and fangs, Alara. You proved that last night. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. True strength isn't in claws or fangs. It's in doing what's right when everyone else looks away. Had she known? Had she somehow foreseen this moment? The mate bond doesn't lie, Ronan continued, his voice dropping lower. It can be rejected, but it cannot be denied. What I feel, what we both felt, is real. My heart raced, hope and fear warring within me. The pack would never accept a human Luna. The pack will accept my choice, he said with absolute certainty. Many already see you differently after last night. You protected their alpha's children. That earns respect, even from the most traditional wolves. And the ones who still see me as an outsider? As weak? A dangerous gleam entered his eyes. Let them challenge you. I think they'll find you're stronger than you appear. I thought of my grandmother's teachings, the magic that flowed in my veins, magic that had been enough to hold off an ancient fey creature, at least temporarily. Perhaps there was strength in me that I had yet to fully understand. I don't expect an answer now, Ronan said, gentling his voice. Being an alpha's mate isn't easy, being a mother to 3 werewolf pups even less so. I'm asking you to consider a life that will challenge you in ways you cannot imagine. The children, I murmured, thinking of their bright smiles when they saw me that morning. They've just lost their mother. Pain flickered across Ronan's face. They lost her long before last night. Vivienne was absent, even when physically present. She saw them as extensions of her status, not as children to be loved. The revelation made my heart ache for the triplets. No child deserves such coldness from a parent. They like you, Ronan added, a hint of wonder in his voice. They always have. Finn asks about you when you don't come to the pack house for days. Arya keeps a collection of the flowers you helped her gather. Leo tries to remember your stories word for word. Each detail was an arrow to my heart, lodging deep and true. I had always felt drawn to the children, had always made time for them even when the rest of the pack made me feel unwelcome. I need time, I said finally. This is overwhelming. Ronan nodded, respect in his gaze. Time you shall have, but not solitude. The Shadow Walker may have retreated, but it won't forget. Vivienne's banishment doesn't negate the bargain she struck. The creature will return, seeking payment in one form or another. A chill ran down my spine. You think it will come after the children again? Or after you, he said grimly. You interfered in its hunt. Such creatures hold grudges for centuries. What do we do? I asked, instinctively including myself in the protection of his family. Something softened in Ronan's expression at my use of we. First, you will move into the pack house. No more living alone at the edge of the territory. I've had your belongings brought to the East Wing. I blinked in surprise. That's the royal family's wing. Yes, he said simply. People will talk. Let them. He reached out slowly, giving me time to retreat, and tucked a strand of blonde hair behind my ear. The casual intimacy of the gesture made me shiver. Second, you will teach me about your protection magic. If we combine it with pack defenses, we stand a better chance against the Shadow Walker when it returns. The idea of sharing my grandmother's teachings with the Alpha, with anyone in the pack, was both thrilling and terrifying. Her magic had always been our secret, practiced behind closed doors and spoken of only in whispers. And third? I asked, sensing there was more to his plan. A smile curved his lips, transforming his stern face into something breathtaking. Third, you will join us for breakfast. The children are waiting, and I've found I have quite an appetite this morning. And the double meaning in his words sent heat rushing to my cheeks. Before I could formulate a response, he leaned down and pressed his lips to my forehead, a gesture so gentle it brought tears to my eyes. Take all the time you need to consider what I've offered, he murmured against my skin. But know this, Alara. You already hold my heart in your hands. You've protected what I love most in this world. Now I wish to protect you in return. As he drew back, the blue shimmer of my protection spell seemed to reach out toward him, tendrils of light curling around his form before retreating. The magic recognized him, accepted him, even if I hadn't yet given him my answer. Breakfast, I agreed, finding my voice at last. I can manage that much. His smile widened, and he offered me his arm in a courtly gesture that seemed at odds with his modern clothing. It's a start, he said as I hesitantly placed my hand in the crook of his elbow. And I'm a patient wolf, when the prize is worth the wait. Together, we left the children's room, stepping into a future neither of us could have imagined when the moon rose the night before. Whatever came next, whatever dangers we faced, I knew with sudden clarity that I was no longer alone on the edges of the pack. For better or worse, I had found my place, or perhaps it had found me. The following days passed in a blur of adjustment and whispers. Moving into the pack house's east wing placed me at the center of pack life rather than its periphery, and the change was as jarring as stepping from shadow into blinding light. Eyes followed me everywhere, some curious, some hostile, some calculating. The news of Vivian's betrayal and banishment had spread through the pack like wildfire, along with rumors of my role in saving the Alpha's children. What hadn't become common knowledge, thankfully, was Ronan's declaration about our mate bond. He had kept his word about giving me time, maintaining a respectful distance in public, while ensuring I was treated with the deference due to someone under his personal protection. In private, during the evenings we spent with the children, or discussing strategies against the Shadow Walker's return, his gaze would often linger on me with an intensity that left me breathless. A week after that fateful night, I found myself in the pack house's extensive library, searching for any information about Shadow Walkers. My grandmother's teachings had been practical rather than academic. How to craft protection spells, how to harness natural energies, but had included little lore about the creatures we might need protection from. You won't find much in those, a gravelly voice commented as I flipped through yet another unhelpful tome. I looked up to find Abel, the pack's eldest member and keeper of their histories, watching me from the doorway. His weathered face was a map of wrinkles, his silver hair still thick despite his advanced age. Among werewolves, who aged more slowly than humans, he was ancient, nearly 200 years old, if the rumors were true. I have to try, I said, closing the book with a sigh. The Shadow Walker will come back. We need to be prepared. Abel nodded, his pale blue eyes sharp with intelligence despite his years. Shadow Walkers aren't mentioned in our histories because they aren't wolf enemies, traditionally. They prey on greed and vanity, not pack bonds. I straightened in my chair, suddenly alert. You know about them? A smile creased his face. I know about many things, child. I've lived long enough to see the boundary between our world and the Fey realms thin and thicken again, like the waxing and waning of the moon. He moved further into the library, his steps surprisingly spry for one so old. Your grandmother understood this. Eliza was wise in the old ways, human though she was. The mention of my grandmother sent a pang through my heart. You knew her? Of course, Abel said, settling into the chair across from me. She helped birth half the pack, healed our wounds when traditional methods failed. She was respected. I hadn't known this. My grandmother had rarely spoken of her relationships with the pack, and after her death, I'd been taken in more out of obligation than affection. She never told me she was friends with the pack. Abel's eyes twinkled. More than friends with some. Your grandfather was one of us, child. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. What? That's not possible. I'm human. Mostly human, he corrected. Your grandfather was a werewolf, but the gene is recessive in some pairings. Your mother was human, and so are you. But with enough wolf blood to make you sensitive to certain things. Why do you think your protection spells work so well? Pure humans can learn magic, yes, but it takes decades of study. You've had a gift for it since childhood, haven't you? I sat back, stunned as pieces of my life suddenly rearranged themselves into a new pattern. My uncanny sense of direction in the forest, my ability to sense emotions in others, the way I healed faster than most humans, though nowhere near werewolf speed. Why didn't she tell me? I whispered. Abel's expression softened. She wanted to protect you. Mixed bloods sometimes face prejudice from both worlds. She thought it better you live fully in one than be caught between two. And my mother? Did she know? She knew. It's why she left, I think. The burden of knowledge was too heavy for her. Abel reached across the table to pat my hand. Your grandmother hoped that burden would be lighter for you when the time came. I looked down at the silver pendant I always wore, seeing it with new eyes, the wolf with sapphire eyes. A symbol of my heritage, not just a keepsake. Does Ronan know? I asked, my voice barely audible. Abel chuckled. The Alpha knows there's something special about you, but I doubt he knows your specific lineage. Few remember your grandfather now. He died in the territorial wars 50 years ago, long before Ronan was born. And the Shadow Walker? What do you know about it? The old wolf's face grew grave. They are ancient, even by my standards. Neither good nor evil in human terms, but dangerous. They feed on life force. Blood is merely the conduit. They honor bargains to the letter while twisting their spirit. Vivian offered her children's blood, thinking she could renege on the bargain later, perhaps by producing more children as substitutes. The coldness of such calculation made me shudder. How do we fight it when it returns? Not with teeth and claws, Abel said. Those are useless against shadow and smoke. But light. He nodded toward my pendant. Light, and old magic, and the strength of true bonds. These things a shadow walker cannot stand against. True bonds, I repeated, thinking of Ronan's words, my true mate. Abel's knowing gaze seemed to read my thoughts. The mate bond is the strongest magic our kind possesses, stronger than alpha power, stronger than pack bonds. It connects souls across distance, across time, even rarely, across species. Is that why Ronan... I stopped, unsure how much to reveal. Why he looks at you like you hung the moon. Abel finished, his eyes crinkling with amusement. Yes. The bond recognizes what belongs together, what completes each other. It cares nothing for politics or tradition. The library door opened before I could respond, and Tessa, one of the pack warriors, entered with hurried steps. There you are, she said, nodding to me. The Alpha requests your presence in his study. Immediately. I rose, apprehension prickling along my skin. Has something happened? Tessa's expression gave nothing away. He didn't say. Just sent me to find you. I glanced at Abel, who nodded encouragingly. Remember what I said about true bonds, child, and know that your grandmother would be proud of the woman you've become. His words carried me through the pack house, past curious onlookers and whispered conversations that faltered as I passed. The east wing, where Ronan's study was located, was quieter, the hallways wider, and decorated with paintings of past pack leaders. I paused outside his door, taking a deep breath before knocking. Enter, came his deep voice from within. Ronan stood by the window, his broad shoulders tense beneath his charcoal gray Henley. He turned as I entered, and the raw emotion in his eyes stopped me in my tracks. What's wrong? I asked, instantly alert. The Shadow Walker has been sighted again, he said without preamble. At the northern border, it killed 2 deer and arranged their bodies in a pattern, a message. My blood ran cold. What kind of message? A countdown. Ronan ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of frustration. 3 stones placed between the bodies. 3 days. Until it comes for the children, I guessed, fear clutching at my throat. Or for you, he added grimly. We don't know which it wants more at this point. The original payment, or the one who interfered. I moved to the window where he stood, looking out at the forest that surrounded the pack's territory. Somewhere in those ancient trees, a creature of shadow and malice was waiting, planning. Abel told me more about shadow walkers, I said. They can't be fought with physical strength, but they're vulnerable to light and true bonds. Ronan's gaze sharpened. What kind of true bonds? Pack bonds? Family bonds? I hesitated, then added softly, mate bonds. The tension between us shifted, electric and immediate. Ronan moved closer, his golden eyes never leaving mine. Is that what you've decided then, to accept the mate bond? My heart hammered against my ribs. I'm still coming to terms with everything, but I won't let that creature hurt the children, or the pack. Or me? He asked, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. The question stripped me bare, demanding honesty. Or you, I admitted. The thought of you being hurt. I can't bear it. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. That's the bond speaking. Even unacknowledged, it protects what belongs to us. I don't belong to anyone, I said automatically, though the words felt hollow. Ronan smiled, the expression transforming his severe features. No, you are your own, as am I. But together we could be something greater than either of us alone. Before I could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway outside. The door burst open, and Mina rushed in, her face pale with panic. Alpha! The children! They're gone! The world seemed to stop. What do you mean gone? Ronan demanded, his voice deadly calm, though I could feel the rage building beneath it. They were in the garden with their tutor, Mina explained breathlessly. Iris turned her back for just a minute, just 1 minute to help Leo with his shoelace, and when she looked up, they were gone. All three. Search the grounds, Ronan ordered, already moving toward the door. All available warriors now. Check every building, every corner of the territory. There's more, Mina said, her voice dropping. We found this by the garden gate. She held out her hand. In her palm lay a small stone, smooth and black, with a symbol carved into its surface. 3 vertical lines intersected by 1 horizontal line. The countdown had been accelerated. The Shadow Walker, I breathed, recognizing the symbol from one of my grandmother's old books. It's taken them now instead of waiting. Ronan's face hardened into a mask of controlled fury. Gather the search parties, he told Mina. But tell them not to engage if they find the creature. Track and report only. As Mina hurried away, Ronan turned to me, his eyes burning gold with barely contained wolf energy. Can you find them? With your magic? I clutched my pendant, mind racing. I need something of theirs, something personal, with their energy attached to it. Without a word, Ronan strode to a cabinet and unlocked it with a key he kept around his neck. From inside, he withdrew a small wooden box. When he opened it, I saw 3 locks of hair, 1 from each child, tied with different colored ribbons. I kept these from their first haircuts, he explained, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. Wolf tradition, for protection spells, if ever needed. I took the box with trembling hands, touched by this glimpse of his softer side. This will work. I'll need a map of the territory as well. While Ronan retrieved a detailed map from his desk, I prepared my mind for the working ahead. My grandmother had taught me locator spells, but I'd never tried one on this scale for someone taken by a creature of such power. We spread the map across Ronan's desk, and I placed the box of hair at its center. From my pocket, I took a small vial of consecrated oil my grandmother had prepared years ago, saving it for emergencies. I need silence, I told Ronan. And I hesitated, then held out my hand. I need your strength. The children share your blood. Without hesitation, he placed his warm palm against mine. The contact sent a jolt of awareness through me, the mate bond humming between us like a plucked string. I closed my eyes and began to whisper the words of the locator spell, feeling the magic rise within me, warmer and stronger than ever before, fed by Ronan's power flowing into me through our joined hands. The oil began to move across the map of its own accord, drawn toward a point in the northern forest. I opened my eyes to see it circling a location deep in the woods, far from any pack trails. "There," I said, pointing to the spot. "That's where the Shadow Walker has taken them." Ronan studied the map, his expression grim. "The old stone circle, it's ancient. Predates our pack by centuries. Some say it was a doorway between worlds once. It's trying to take them through," I realized with horror, "to the Fey realm. If it succeeds, they'll be lost forever," Ronan finished, his voice hollow. He gripped my hand tighter. "I need to go after them. Now." "Not alone," I said firmly. "I'm coming with you." He shook his head. "It's too dangerous. They're safest with both of us," I interrupted. "You said it yourself. We're stronger together. Your strength, my magic. The Shadow Walker fears the light, and true bonds. We have both." Conflict warred in his expression. "If anything happened to you, I can protect myself," I assured him, touching the pendant at my throat. "And I can help protect the children. You know I'm right." After a long moment, he nodded. "We go together. But you stay behind me if we encounter the Shadow Walker." "Until it's time for me not to," I countered, unwilling to make promises I might need to break. A reluctant smile tugged at his lips. "Stubborn woman." "You have no idea," I replied, already gathering what we would need for the confrontation ahead. Within minutes, we had left the pack house, Ronan pausing only long enough to issue commands to his warriors. Some would continue searching the grounds in case the locator spell was wrong. Others would form a perimeter around the stone circle, waiting for our signal. As we entered the forest, Ronan shifted to his wolf form, massive and black, his golden eyes the only spot of warmth in his midnight fur. I ran alongside him, my pace nowhere near as fast, but sustained by determination and the strange new energy that had awakened in me since touching Ronan's blood that night. The forest grew darker and more primeval as we traveled north, the trees older and more twisted, the undergrowth thicker. My pendant grew warm against my skin, pulsing with a warning I felt in my bones. We were getting closer. Ronan slowed, his large wolf head turning to check on me. I nodded to indicate I was still capable of continuing, though my lungs burned and my legs ached. Nothing would stop me from reaching those children. The stone circle appeared ahead of us, massive gray monoliths thrusting up from the forest floor like the teeth of some ancient beast. In the center stood the Shadow Walker, its form more substantial than before, as though it had fed recently. The thought turned my stomach. Before the creature, huddled together on a flat stone that resembled an altar, were the triplets. Their small faces were pale with fear, but they were alive and seemingly unharmed. Arya was comforting her brothers, her tiny arms around their shoulders as they trembled. Ronan growled, the sound so deep and threatening it vibrated the ground beneath our feet. The Shadow Walker turned, its hollow eyes finding us at the edge of the clearing. "Alpha King," it hissed, its voice like dry leaves rustling. "You arrive just in time to witness the fulfillment of the bargain." "There is no bargain," I called out, stepping forward despite Ronan's warning growl. Vivian had no right to offer what wasn't hers to give. The creature's head tilted at an unnatural angle. Ah, the light carrier, the human who thinks she can challenge the old laws. It glided closer, its form shifting and wavering like smoke. "A bargain made is a bargain kept." The mother offered. I accepted. "Payment must be made." "Then take me instead," I said, ignoring Ronan's snarl of protest. "1 life for 3. A fair exchange." The Shadow Walker paused, considering. "Interesting. Your life force is unusual, not purely human. There is power in your blood, old power. It would sustain me longer than these little ones, perhaps." Ronan moved in front of me, his massive body a wall between me and the creature. The message was clear. It would have to go through him first. The Shadow Walker laughed, the sound like breaking ice. How touching. "The alpha protects his mate," it turned back toward the children. "But who protects your pups while you stand guard over her?" With impossible speed, it flowed toward the triplets, reaching out with hands like twisted branches. "Now, Ronan!" I shouted, activating the protection spell I'd prepared during our journey. Ronan howled, the sound piercing the twilight gloom of the forest. At the same moment, I threw the pouch of herbs and salt I'd prepared, my blood already mixed within. It burst open at the feet of the triplets, spreading a circle of blue light around them. The Shadow Walker recoiled, hissing in pain as the light touched its form. Clever, but not clever enough. It turned toward us, its shape growing larger, more threatening. If I cannot have the children, I will take you both. The pack will be leaderless, and I will return for the little ones at my leisure. Ronan shifted back to human form, naked and magnificent in the fading light. You will take nothing, he growled, his voice layered with alpha power. This ends now. I moved to stand beside him, no longer willing to remain behind. Together, I said, reaching for his hand. He took it without hesitation, and the connection between us flared to life, stronger than before. A bridge of golden light that seemed to flow around us, through us, binding us together. The Shadow Walker recoiled further, its hollow eyes widening. The mate bond, it whispered. You've accepted it. In that moment, I realized the truth. I had accepted it, not with words but with action, with the choice to stand beside Ronan against the darkness, to protect what he loved most, what we both loved. We have, I said, squeezing Ronan's hand. Now leave our family in peace, or face the consequences. The Shadow Walker wavered, its form becoming less substantial. This isn't over, it warned. The bargain must be honored, if not with blood, then with something of equal value. Name your price, Ronan said, his voice steady. Anything but my family. The creature was silent for a long moment, its hollow gaze moving between us, calculating. The crown. Renounce your position finally as Alpha King. Walk away from power, from territory, from legacy. That is my price. The forest fell silent, as if every creature held its breath. Even the wind seemed to pause, waiting for Ronan's answer. I felt him tense beside me, his hand tightening around mine. The crown, he repeated, his voice neutral, though I could sense the turmoil beneath. My position as Alpha King. The Shadow Walker drifted closer, its hollow eyes gleaming with victory. Yes, step down. Surrender your power to another. Leave this territory forever. Your bloodline's reign ends with you. For generations, Ronan's family had led the Silver Moon Pack. His father, his grandfather, and ancestors beyond counting had worn the mantle of Alpha King, guiding and protecting their people. To ask him to give that up, to walk away from his birthright, his responsibility, his very identity, it was a price designed to wound as deeply as the loss of his children would have. And if I refuse? Ronan asked, though we both knew the answer. The Shadow Walker's form shimmered with dark amusement. Then our original bargain stands. Blood will be paid, if not today, then tomorrow, or a year from now. I am patient, Alpha King. I will watch from the shadows until your guard drops, until you believe your family safe. And then I will take what is owed. Arya whimpered from within the blue circle of protection, and the sound seemed to pierce Ronan's heart. His face, already grave, grew haunted. Take me, I said suddenly, stepping forward. Not as a life, but as a servant. 7 years of service in the Shadow Realm. That's a traditional bargain, isn't it? 7 years of my life for the children's freedom. Ilara, no, Ronan growled, pulling me back. Do not offer what you don't understand. The Shadow Walker tilted its head, considering me with new interest. 7 years in the unseen court. Interesting. Your light would be useful. Many would pay for such a servant. Don't do this, Ronan whispered fiercely in my ear. 7 years in the Fey realm could be centuries in our world. Everyone you know would be dust when you returned, if you returned at all. I won't let you give up your crown, I replied, equally fierce. The pack needs you. Those children need you. And I need you, he said, the raw emotion in his voice stealing my breath. We've only just found each other. The Shadow Walker drifted closer, clearly enjoying our distress. Decide quickly, mortals. The doorway opens soon, with or without passengers. I looked toward the stone altar where the triplets huddled, their small faces pinched with fear yet still so trusting, so certain their father would save them. They were so young, with their entire lives ahead of them. How could I not sacrifice for that? "Wait," came a voice from the edge of the clearing. We turned to see Abel limping into the stone circle, his ancient face resolute despite the obvious pain of his journey. He carried a wooden staff carved with symbols I didn't recognize, its tip glowing faintly in the gathering darkness. "Elder," Ronan said, surprise evident in his voice. "You shouldn't be here." "And yet here I am," Abel replied with a thin smile. He turned his pale blue eyes toward the Shadow Walker. "I thought it might be you, Thorn, still collecting debts after all these centuries?" The Shadow Walker seemed to recoil slightly. "You remember me, old wolf?" "I remember everything," Abel said, his voice gaining strength, "including the proper way to address a fae of your standing." He bowed, a courtly gesture that seemed at odds with his weathered appearance. "Lord Thorn of the Unseen Court, Shadow Walker, Keeper of Oaths." The creature, Thorn, straightened, becoming more solid, more humanoid, though still unnaturally tall and gaunt. "Well met, Abel Gray. You were but a pup when last we crossed paths," Abel chuckled. 170 years changes a wolf, my lord, though you remain as I remember." I watched this exchange with growing confusion, sensing there was history here I didn't understand. Ronan seemed equally baffled, though he kept his expression carefully neutral. "You speak of a bargain," Abel continued, addressing the Shadow Walker. "But I wonder if you've considered all possibilities." Thorn drifted closer to Abel, ignoring Ronan and me completely now. "Speak plainly, old wolf. What alternative do you propose?" Abel leaned heavily on his staff, but his voice remained strong, a life debt. "Mine to you. I am old, Thorn. My time grows short by mortal standards. But for a being like you, the life force of a 200-year-old werewolf would be substantial, especially one with my bloodline." Horror dawned as I realized what Abel was suggesting. "No," I whispered. Thorn seemed to consider the offer, his hollow eyes gleaming with interest. "Your life instead of the crown or the pups or the light carrier. A noble sacrifice, Elder." "Not sacrifice," Abel corrected. "Exchange. My remaining years for their freedom. And," he added, his voice dropping, "for the nullification of all bargains between you and this pack." "Past, present, and future," Thorn hissed, clearly displeased by this addition. "You ask much, old wolf." "I offer much," Abel countered. "My blood carries the power of 20 alphas, diluted but preserved. The magic of our earliest ancestors still runs in my veins, thin but potent. You won't find its like again in this age." The Shadow Walker circled Abel slowly, assessing him with those empty eyes. "I could take you by force. You are old, weakened. You could try," Abel said mildly. "But we both know that willing sacrifice carries greater power than that taken by force. And," he added with a sly smile, "I've learned a few tricks in my long years. This old wolf still has teeth." As if to emphasize his point, the staff in his hand flared brighter, casting Abel's wizened face in sharp relief. For a moment, I glimpsed the powerful wolf he must once have been, proud and fierce, a true warrior of the pack. Thorn retreated a step, clearly reassessing the situation. "A life freely given," he mused. "All debts cleared. The pack untouchable thereafter. Those are my terms," Abel confirmed. "Abel, don't do this," Ronan said, moving forward. "As your alpha, I forbid it." The old wolf turned to him with a gentle smile. "With respect, my king, this decision is not yours to make. I have lived long and well. I have seen the pack flourish under your rule, as it did under your fathers and his fathers before him. I will not watch it fall now, not when I can prevent it. There must be another way," I insisted, tears burning my eyes. Abel's gaze softened as it fell on me. "Dear child, your grandmother would be so proud of the woman you've become, of the Luna you will be." Luna. The title sent a shock through me, both terrifying and exhilarating. In that moment, I could see the future Abel envisioned. Me standing beside Ronan, helping to lead the pack, raising the triplets, perhaps even bearing children of my own one day. A future that would not exist if the Shadow Walker claimed any of us. "I have made my choice," Abel said firmly, turning back to Thorn. Do you accept my terms? The Shadow Walker was silent for a long moment, its form shifting and swirling as it considered. Finally, it nodded, a single sharp movement. I accept. Your life for their freedom, all debts cleared, all bargains nullified between myself and the Silver Moon Pack. Relief and grief warred within me as Abel nodded, satisfaction in his ancient eyes. Then let it be done. No, Ronan growled, stepping forward. I cannot allow this. Abel turned to him, suddenly every inch the elder, his authority almost palpable despite his frail appearance. You can and you will, Alpha. This is the way. One life freely given to save many. It is the oldest law of our kind, older even than the crown you wear. The truth of his words seemed to strike Ronan physically. His shoulders sagged, not in defeat, but in acceptance of a reality he could not change. The children first, I said, finding my voice. Send them to us, then complete your bargain. Thorn hissed in annoyance but nodded. With a wave of his branch-like hand, the protection circle I'd created shimmered and faded. Come, little wolves, he called to the triplets. Return to your father. Arya was the first to move, brave little girl that she was, pulling her brothers by the hands. They ran across the clearing and threw themselves at Ronan, who knelt to gather them in his arms, his powerful body shaking with relief. Papa, Finn sobbed, burying his face in Ronan's chest. The Shadow Man said we had to go away forever. Never, Ronan promised fiercely, holding them tighter. You're safe now. You're home. Leo looked up, his golden eyes finding mine. Ilara helped save us, he said with a child's certainty. I saw the blue light, like your stories. Yes, little one, I said softly, kneeling beside them and stroking his dark hair. Like the stories. Arya reached for my hand, her small fingers wrapping around mine. Are you going to be our new mother? She asked, her voice so innocent, so hopeful that it nearly broke me. Before I could answer, Abel stepped forward, his staff planted firmly on the ground between us and the Shadow Walker. Take them home, both of you, he said, his voice gentle but firm. This old wolf has one last hunt to complete. Ronan stood, the children still clinging to him. His eyes met Abel's in a look of profound respect and sorrow. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten, Elder. Your name will be honored for generations to come. Abel smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face. Live well, my king. Lead our pack with wisdom and strength. His gaze shifted to me. Take care of them, light carrier. They need your heart as much as they need his strength. I nodded, unable to speak through the knot in my throat. Go now, Abel said, turning back to face the Shadow Walker. What comes next is not for children's eyes. Ronan hesitated only a moment longer before lifting Leo into his arms. I picked up Arya, and Finn clung to his father's leg. Together, we backed away from the stone circle, the children's faces pressed against our shoulders to shield them from what was to come. At the edge of the clearing, I paused to look back. Abel stood tall and proud before Thorn, his staff planted firmly on the ground, his silver head held high. For a moment, an image overlaid reality, not a frail old man, but a massive silver wolf, his eyes gleaming with intelligence and power, facing the darkness without fear. Thank you, I whispered, too softly for him to hear. As we turned away, the forest around us seemed to exhale, the tension that had gripped it finally releasing. Birdsong resumed, tentative at first, then stronger. The evening breeze rustled the leaves overhead, carrying the scent of pine and wild roses, the same scents I'd noticed on the night of the solstice feast, when everything had changed. We met Ronan's warriors at the edge of the forest. Their faces registered shock, then relief at the sight of the children safe in our arms. Without being told, they formed a protective circle around us, escorting us back to the pack house in respectful silence. The journey seemed shorter on the return, or perhaps I was simply too numb with grief and exhaustion to notice the passage of time. The children, overwhelmed by their ordeal, fell asleep against us, their small bodies going limp with the release of fear. By the time we reached the pack house, word of our return had spread. Pack members lined the path, their faces solemn yet relieved. They bowed their heads as Ronan passed, not just to their alpha, but to me as well. The gesture brought fresh tears to my eyes. For the first time since my grandmother died, I felt seen. Accepted. Mina met us at the door, her eyes red from crying but her smile genuine. "Thank the moon you're all safe," she said, gently taking Arya from my arms. "Let me help with the children." Together we brought the triplets to their room, changing them into pajamas without waking them. They curled together in Finn's bed, rather than separating, seeking comfort in each other's presence even in sleep. I stood watching them for a long moment, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. They were safe. Whatever the cost, whatever the pain, this made it worthwhile. Ronan's warmth at my back alerted me to his presence before his arms slipped around my waist, pulling me gently against his chest. I leaned into him, accepting the comfort he offered. "Abel," I whispered, the name catching on a sob. "I know," Ronan murmured, his breath warm against my hair. "I know." We stood in silence, watching the children sleep, each lost in our own grief for the noble wolf who had given everything to save them. To save us all. Finally, Ronan turned me in his arms, tipping my face up to meet his gaze. The golden eyes that had once seemed so intimidating now held only warmth and something deeper. Something that made my heart race. "He called you Luna," he said softly. I nodded, unable to deny it. He seemed very certain of the future. Abel was rarely wrong. Ronan's thumb traced the curve of my cheek, wiping away a tear I hadn't realized I'd shed. He saw what I've known since the moment our eyes met. "You belong here, Ilara, with the pack. With the children." His voice dropped lower. "With me." The last of my resistance crumbled under the weight of truth. I had been fighting the inevitable, clinging to fears that no longer mattered. The bond between us wasn't something to fear. It was a gift. A bridge between two souls who had been searching for each other without knowing it. "Yes," I whispered, the word releasing something tight and painful in my chest. "I do belong here." Ronan's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds, transforming his severe features into something breathtaking. Slowly, giving me every chance to retreat, he lowered his head until our foreheads touched. "My mate," he breathed. The words a prayer and a promise. "My Luna. My heart." Our lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home after a long, cold journey. Gentle at first, then deeper as the bond between us flared to life, golden and warm. I felt it settle around us, through us, binding us together in ways that went beyond the physical. When we finally parted, both breathless, Ronan pressed another kiss to my forehead. "Rest now," he said. "The children will need us when they wake. There will be questions, fears to soothe." "And Abel?" I asked, needing to know how we would honor him. "We will hold a ceremony at the next full moon," Ronan said, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. "The ceremony of the fallen warrior, the highest honor our pack can bestow," I nodded, taking comfort in the ritual that would come. "He saved us all." "Yes," Ronan agreed, his gaze moving to the sleeping triplets. "And we will live in a way that honors his sacrifice." As if sensing we were talking about him, Finn stirred in his sleep, a small frown creasing his forehead. I moved to the bed and gently stroked his dark hair until the frown eased, his face relaxing back into peaceful slumber. "They'll need time to heal from this," I said softly. "Children are resilient, but trauma leaves marks." "They have us," Ronan said, coming to stand beside me. "Both of us. Together, we'll help them through this." The certainty in his voice, the steady presence of his body beside mine, filled me with a peace I hadn't felt in years. Whatever came next, and I had no illusions that our path would be easy, we would face it together, as a family. Together, I agreed, taking his hand. Outside the window, the moon rose full and silver over the forest, its light bathing the room in a gentle glow. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, a lone voice quickly joined by others, the sound rising and falling in ancient harmony. The pack, calling to one another, connecting, affirming that they were alive, they were together, they were home. And for the first time in my life, I was truly part of that chorus. Not on the edges, not merely tolerated, but woven into the very fabric of the pack. The human with wolf blood, the light carrier, the alpha's mate, the Luna. As the wolves' song faded into the night, I felt a whisper of presence, not quite seen, not quite heard, but felt deep in my bones. Abel's spirit, perhaps, or simply the magic that had always run in my veins, finally awakened and acknowledged. "Remember who you are," my grandmother had said. Even when others forget, I touched the silver pendant at my throat. The wolf with sapphire eyes that had watched over me all these years. I remember, I thought, and now, so does everyone else. 3 months later, the pack house was transformed. Garlands of autumn flowers and golden leaves draped the great hall, their scent mingling with pine and cinnamon. Pack members moved through the space with purpose, setting up long tables, arranging chairs, hanging lanterns that would illuminate the celebration once night fell. I stood in the center of it all, directing the preparations with a confidence that still sometimes surprised me. Arya perched on my hip, her small fingers playing with the silver pendant I always wore, while her brothers helped the warriors move benches, mostly getting underfoot. But no one seemed to mind. "The west corner still needs more lanterns," I told Mina, who had become my right hand in pack matters, "and make sure there's enough of the honey mead. You know how Derek gets if he can't have his third cup." Mina laughed, the sound bright in the bustling hall. "Yes, Luna," she said, the title rolling naturally off her tongue now. She hurried off to complete her tasks, calling instructions to the younger pack members as she went. Luna. 3 months, and the title still sent a shiver through me, not of discomfort anymore, but of pride, of belonging. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been resistance from some of the more traditional pack members, questions about a human Luna, doubts about my ability to stand beside the Alpha King, but Abel's sacrifice had changed something fundamental in the pack's perception of me. The elder had given his life to save not just the royal children, but me as well. That carried weight, even among the most skeptical. And then there were the children. Their immediate, unquestioning acceptance of me as their new mother had swayed many hearts. Children, especially werewolf children with their heightened senses, recognized truth that adults sometimes missed. If the triplets saw me as their mother, who were others to argue? "Thinking deep thoughts, mate," Ronan's voice pulled me from my reverie, his warm hand settling at the small of my back. I leaned into him instinctively, our bond humming with contentment at the contact, just reflecting on how much has changed. He smiled, pressing a kiss to my temple. "For the better, I hope." "Definitely for the better," I assured him, shifting Arya to my other hip. She reached for her father immediately, and he took her with practiced ease, tossing her into the air and catching her as she squealed with delight. "Papa," she exclaimed, her small hands framing his face. "Is it time yet? Are they coming?" "Soon, princess," he promised, his eyes softening as they always did with his children. "The neighboring packs will arrive at sunset. You'll need to be on your best behavior." She nodded solemnly, though mischief danced in her golden eyes, so like her father's. "I'll be good. I'm the Alpha's daughter, and the Luna's daughter," Ronan added, his gaze meeting mine over her head, "which means you're twice as responsible." The pride that bloomed in my chest at his words was almost painful in its intensity. 3 months ago, I had stood at the edges of the pack, forgotten and invisible. Now I stood at its heart, helping to lead, to protect, to nurture. The transformation still left me breathless at times. "Ilara!" Leo called, running toward us with Finn close behind. "Come see what we made for the feast." I exchanged an amused glance with Ronan, before following the boys to a small table in the corner of the hall. On it sat 3 clumsily formed clay sculptures, painted in bright colors. "This is Papa," Finn explained, pointing to the largest figure, a black wolf with golden eyes. "And this is you." The second figure was clearly human, with long blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing a dress of silver and blue. "And what's this one?" I asked, pointing to the third sculpture, another wolf. This one's silver with blue eyes. Leo looked at me as if I'd asked something obvious. "That's you too. You're Wolf." My breath caught. "Leo? I don't have a wolf. I'm human, remember?" The boys exchanged a look I couldn't interpret. That secret communication of twins, not all human. Finn said with certainty. Abel told us. Before. I knelt to their level, studying their earnest faces. What did Abel tell you? That you have wolf blood, Leo said. From long ago. That one day you might find your wolf if you listen hard enough. The words sent a chill down my spine. Abel had told me about my werewolf grandfather, but he'd never suggested that I might shift. That was impossible for someone with so little wolf blood, wasn't it? When did Abel tell you this? I asked gently. The night before the Shadow Man came, Finn said. He was telling us stories, about the first wolves, about magic. I made a mental note to ask them more about these stories later, when we had privacy. Well, these sculptures are beautiful, I said, touching each one lightly. We'll put them on display at the feast, in a place of honor. Their faces lit up, and they ran off to continue helping, their small bodies vibrating with the barely contained energy of wolf pups. I rose, my mind still caught on their words. Your wolf. The children say the strangest things sometimes, I said to Ronan when I rejoined him. He raised an eyebrow, bouncing Arya gently as she started to fidget. What did they say this time? That Abel told them I have wolf blood. That I might find my wolf someday. A shadow crossed Ronan's face. Not of displeasure, but of something deeper, more complex. Abel spoke to me of this as well. Before, my heart skipped. And what did he say? Ronan was silent for a moment, choosing his words carefully. That your grandmother hid more than just your heritage from you. That the potential for shift lies dormant in your blood, awakened by the mate bond. His eyes met mine, serious yet hopeful. He said that on the night you truly accept yourself, all parts of yourself, you might find your wolf waiting. The idea was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. To shift, to run on 4 paws beneath the moon, to share that fundamental experience with Ronan, and eventually with the children. It seemed too much to hope for. Is that even possible? I whispered. I thought humans couldn't shift, even with some wolf ancestry. Normally, no, Ronan admitted. But you're not entirely normal, mate. His lips quirked in a half-smile. Your magic, your bond with me, your bloodline. Abel believed these things together might be enough. I touched my pendant, the wolf with sapphire eyes that had been my grandmother's final gift. Had she known? Had she been preparing me all along for a future she foresaw but couldn't speak of directly? Whether you shift or not, Ronan continued, his voice gentle. You are my mate, my Luna, the mother of my children. Nothing will change that. I leaned into him, drawing strength from his solid presence. I know, and I'm happy as I am. If more comes, it's a gift. If not, I already have more than I ever dreamed possible. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, his golden eyes warm with love. Wise words, Luna. The moment was interrupted by a young warrior hurrying into the hall. Alpha, Luna, the first guests have arrived. The Stone River pack approaches from the east. Ronan straightened, shifting seamlessly into his role as Alpha King. Very good. Gather the welcoming party. As the warrior hurried away, I took Arya from Ronan's arms. I'll get the children ready. You handle the official welcome. He nodded, then caught my hand before I could turn away. Tonight, after the feast, when the moon is high, perhaps we could try, to see if your wolf is ready. The offer sent a thrill through me. Yes, I said, surprising myself with how much I wanted it. Tonight, his smile was like sunrise, full of promise and warmth. With a final squeeze of my hand, he strode toward the entrance hall, every inch the powerful Alpha King preparing to greet his allies. I watched him go, my heart full to bursting. Then, with Arya on my hip, I went to find the boys and prepare them for their duties as the Alpha's children. Tonight was important. The first major gathering of neighboring packs since I had become Luna. First impressions would matter. The hours that followed passed in a blur of activity. Packs arrived one after another. Stone River from the east, Black Mountain from the north, Silver Lake from the west. Each Alpha brought their inner circle, their heirs, their Lunas. They were welcomed with the traditional ceremonies, offered bread and salt, shown to their quarters in the guest wing. I moved through it all with as much grace as I could muster, acutely aware of curious eyes watching me, assessing the human Luna who had replaced the disgraced Vivian. The children stayed close, instinctively understanding that their acceptance of me mattered to the visitors. By the time the feast began in earnest, the great hall was filled with over 100 werewolves from 4 different packs. The noise was tremendous. Laughter, conversation, occasional friendly growls as old rivals reconnected. The atmosphere was festive yet charged with an undercurrent of politics that I was still learning to navigate. I sat beside Ronan at the high table, the triplets between us, every bit the royal family. Across from us sat the other alphas and their lunas, Victor Stone of Stone River, with his mate Elena, Marcus Black of Black Mountain, with his luna Sarah, and Lillian Silver of Silver Lake, one of the few female alphas, with her mate James. "Your first interpack feast as Luna," Elena said to me as servants brought out the main course. "How are you finding it?" I smiled, recognizing the question for what it was. Part friendly interest, part assessment. Overwhelming but exhilarating, there's so much history and tradition to absorb. "You seem to be adapting well," she observed, her eyes lingering on the triplets, who were behaving with surprising decorum. "The children clearly adore you, and I them," I said simply. "It's unusual," Sarah commented, her tone carefully neutral. "A human Luna." Before I could respond, Lillian Silver leaned forward, her sharp eyes fixed on me. "Not as unusual as one might think. My grandmother's grandmother was human before the bite transformed her." She tilted her head, studying me. "Though you haven't been bitten, have you? You carry your humanity proudly." "I am what I am," I said, meeting her gaze steadily. "Human with just enough wolf blood to understand both worlds." Something like approval flashed in Lillian's eyes. "Well said, Luna Alara. Too many forget that our strength comes not just from fang and claw, but from heart and mind as well." The conversation shifted to territorial matters after that, the alphas discussing recent challenges, rogue wolves sighted near the borders, humans venturing too close to sacred sites, the ever-present dance of maintaining secrecy in an increasingly connected world. I listened closely, absorbing the dynamics between the pack leaders. Ronan commanded respect even among his peers. His opinions weighted more heavily. His counsel sought on difficult matters. Pride warmed me as I watched him lead, firm yet fair, powerful yet compassionate. As the meal progressed to dessert, Marcus Black cleared his throat, drawing attention. "There is another matter we should address," he said, his deep voice carrying easily over the ambient noise. "The Shadow Walker." A hush fell over the high table. Ronan tensed beside me, his hand finding mine beneath the tablecloth. "What of it?" he asked, his tone carefully controlled. "Word has spread of what happened here," Marcus said, "of the bargain broken, the sacrifice made." His eyes moved to me, then to the children, "and of the role your Luna played in saving your pups." I held my breath, uncertain where this was leading. "Shadow walkers rarely forget a slight," Lillian said, her expression grave. "Has there been any sign of its return?" Ronan shook his head. "None. Abel's sacrifice was complete. The bargain was honored, all debts cleared. Still," Victor Stone said, leaning forward, "we would be remiss not to offer additional protection. The 4 packs have stood together for centuries. An attack on the Silver Moon Royal line concerns us all." "What are you suggesting?" Ronan asked, caution in his voice. The 3 visiting alphas exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. It was Lillian who spoke, her tone formal, yet warm. "A renewal of the ancient pact," she said, "blood oath between the 4 packs. Mutual protection, extending to all members, including mates and children." Her gaze settled on me, "including your human Luna." My breath caught. Such a pact was rare and powerful, a binding of pack magic that went beyond political alliance into something more primal, more lasting. Ronan's hand tightened on mine. "You would extend pack protection to a human?" he asked, his voice deliberately neutral, though I could feel his tension. "To your mate," Marcus corrected. "Human or not, she is bound to you, and through you, to all wolves. The old ways recognize such bonds. even if some younger wolves have forgotten.
Besides, Elena added with a small smile, any woman who would face a shadow walker to protect children not born of her body has earned a measure of respect. Warmth flooded me at her words. Acceptance. Not just from my own pack, but from the neighboring packs as well. It was more than I had dared to hope for. "We would be honored to renew the pact," Ronan said, his voice deep with emotion. "Tonight, under the full moon." The alphas nodded, satisfaction in their expressions.
The matter decided, conversation resumed, lighter now, turning to more pleasant topics. As the feast began to wind down, I excused myself briefly to check on the children, who had been taken to bed by Mina, while the adults continued their discussions. I found them sleeping peacefully, Arya in the middle as always, her brothers protective on either side. I brushed a kiss across each small forehead, love swelling in my chest until it felt like it might burst. My children, in every way that mattered. My family. When I returned to the Great Hall, I found it transformed. The tables had been pushed to the sides, and in the center, a circle of salt and herbs had been laid out, similar to my protection spells, but larger, more elaborate. The 4 alphas stood at the cardinal points of the circle, their mates slightly behind them. Ronan's place was to the north, waiting for me. Pack members gathered around the edges of the hall. Silent and reverent, this was old magic, rarely witnessed, and they understood its significance. I moved to Ronan's side, and he took my hand, his eyes glowing softly gold in the dimmed light. "Are you ready?" he murmured. "Yes," I said without hesitation. Lillian Silver, as the eldest alpha present, began the ritual. Under the full moon, we 4 packs renew our ancient bond. Blood to blood, heart to heart, pack to pack. She drew a ceremonial knife across her palm, letting 3 drops of blood fall onto the circle of salt and herbs. Her mate, James, did the same, their blood mingling in the earth. Marcus Black and Victor Stone followed suit with their mates, each cutting their palms, each offering their blood freely to the circle. When it came to our turn, Ronan took the knife, meeting my eyes with a question. I nodded, extending my hand palm up in offering. The small pain of the cut was nothing compared to the significance of the moment. Our blood, his werewolf, mine mostly human, fell together onto the circle. The moment the last drop touched the earth, the circle ignited, not with fire, but with a soft, pulsing light that reminded me of my protection spells. It spread outward, washing over all those present in gentle waves of warmth and connection. I gasped as I felt it. The pack bonds extending beyond our own silver moon, reaching out to encompass Stone River, Black Mountain, Silver Lake, hundreds of wolves, connected through blood and magic, their strength flowing into me as mine flowed into them. And beneath it all, something else stirred. Something wild and ancient, curled deep within my soul. I clutched Ronan's hand tighter as the sensation grew, like an echo answering a call too long unheard. "Your wolf," a voice whispered in my mind. Whether memory or magic, I couldn't tell. "She waits for you to acknowledge her." The light of the circle faded gradually, leaving the hall in darkness, save for the lanterns hanging from the rafters. The ritual complete, the alphas stepped back from the circle, satisfaction in their faces. "It is done," Lillian declared. "The pact is renewed, the bond strengthened. 4 packs, 1 blood." 4 packs, 1 blood, everyone repeated, the words reverberating through the hall. The formality of the moment broke as pack members surged forward, mingling more freely now that the official business was concluded. Music started up, drums and flutes playing traditional wolf songs that spoke of moonlight and freedom and the joy of the run. I remained where I was, still processing the strange awakening I'd felt during the ritual. Ronan watched me closely, concern and hope mingling in his expression. "What is it?" he asked softly. "I felt something," I admitted, pressing a hand to my chest where the sensation had been strongest. "During the ritual, like something waken up." His eyes widened slightly. "Your wolf?" "Maybe. I don't know. It was just a feeling, but..." I trailed off, uncertain how to explain the connection I'd felt, the wildness that had surged through me alongside the pack bonds. Ronan glanced toward the open doors of the hall, where moonlight spilled in silver pools across the threshold. The moon is full. The packs are united. If ever there was a night for transformation, it would be tonight. Hope and fear twisted in my chest. What if I try and nothing happens? What if the feeling was just wishful thinking? He cupped my face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle despite the strength I knew he possessed. Then you remain as you are, my mate, my Luna, mother to my children, beloved of my pack. Nothing changes. The love in his eyes gave me courage. And if something does happen, if I do shift, a smile spread across his face, joyous and fierce. Then we run together beneath the moon, as mates were meant to do. Decision made, I nodded. Let's find out. Quietly, we slipped away from the celebration, leaving the packs to their feasting and dancing. Hand in hand, we walked through the pack house and out into the cool autumn night, where the full moon hung like a silver medallion in the velvet sky. The forest welcomed us, ancient trees standing sentinel as we made our way to a small clearing not far from the pack house, the same clearing where we had first celebrated the summer solstice, where everything had begun. Ronan stopped at the edge of the clearing, giving me space. "What do you need?" he asked. I considered the question, reaching deep within myself for the knowledge that seemed to be awakening. "Quiet," I said finally. "And you. Just you." He nodded, moving to sit on a fallen log at the edge of the clearing. Patient. Supportive. Mine. I stepped into the center of the clearing where moonlight poured down unfiltered by branches. Closing my eyes, I tilted my face up to the moon, feeling its cool light on my skin like a benediction. "Remember who you are," my grandmother had said. Even when others forget, I hadn't understood then. Perhaps I was only beginning to understand now. The wolf pendant warmed against my skin, a reminder of heritage hidden but never truly lost. I am Alara, I thought. Granddaughter of Eliza, who knew the old ways. Great-granddaughter of a werewolf, whose name I never learned. I am human, and more than human. I am mate to the Alpha King, mother to his children, Luna to his pack. I felt it then. The stirring deep within, stronger now, not painful but intense, like a second heartbeat awakening alongside my own. I am light carrier, protector, healer. The moonlight seemed to intensify, pouring into me, filling me with silver fire that raced along my nerves, into my bones, into my very cells. I am wolf. The transformation, when it came, was not the violent, bone-breaking shift I had witnessed in others. It was more like remembering, like my body was recalling a form it had always known but never worn. My skin tingled, then shimmered, then changed. I fell forward, but instead of hands, paws touched the earth, white paws tipped with silver, attached to legs covered in pale fur that gleamed in the moonlight. My senses exploded, sense 1,000 times sharper, sounds crisp and clear from miles away, sight that cut through darkness as if it were day. I turned in a circle, marveling at my new body, smaller than Ronan's massive wolf, but still powerful, lean and quick. My fur was primarily white with silver markings, like moonlight on snow. Ronan made a sound, half gasp, half growl, and I looked up to see him staring at me with wonder. He stepped forward slowly, then faster, unable to contain himself. In a fluid motion that never ceased to amaze me, he shifted, clothes shredding as his massive black wolf form emerged. He circled me, golden eyes wide with awe, his scent wrapping around me like an embrace. My mate, my alpha, my love. I bumped my head against his shoulder, feeling the bond between us strengthen, deepen, becoming something even more profound than it had been. Wolf to wolf, heart to heart, soul to soul. With a playful nip at his flank, I darted away, testing my new form, reveling in the speed and grace that came so naturally. Ronan gave chase, his joyful howl piercing the night sky. Together we ran beneath the moon, 2 wolves, one midnight black, one silver white, racing through the forest that was our home. I felt free in a way I had never experienced before, as if a part of me that had been caged my entire life had finally been released. And when the moon reached its zenith, we stopped on a high ridge overlooking the valley where the pack house nestled. Ronan threw back his head and howled, a sound of pure elation, of triumph, of completion. I joined him, my higher voice twining with his deeper one in perfect harmony. Below, from the pack house, answering howls rose, first our own pack, then the visiting packs, until the night was filled with the song of wolves. A chorus of welcome, of acceptance, of family. In that moment, beneath the full moon with my mate beside me and my pack below, I understood at last what my grandmother had tried to prepare me for. Not just survival, not just acceptance, but this, belonging, completely and without reservation, to the world I had been born to bridge. Human and wolf, magic and mundane, past and future, all that I had been, all that I was now, all that I would become, finally in harmony, finally whole. The wolf with the sapphire eyes had found her way home,